Hey guys, it's me, Shell360. I'm sorry it took me so long to do this review for episode 9 and 10. We're already past 11 and 12, and 13 and 14 are airing right now. Hopefully in the next couple of days I'll get 11 and 12 put up, but until such time, 9 and 10. I really didn't feel like episode 9 had a lot of action to it, but episode 10 was freaking action-packed, and it ended on a massive cliffhanger. So I feel like instead of talking about it linearly, I'll probably talk about it in regards to couples, because I feel like that really is the best way to approach this, because while everybody's storylines kind of seemed like they were a little bit separate, everything definitely converged together towards the end. And this is another one of those times where you can see where the story is showing how these couples are kind of mirror images of each other. Whereas the relationship with Dr. Kong and Big Boss is kind of Dr. Kong that keeps her thoughts and her emotions guarded, while Big Boss is constantly trying to get her to open up to him. And Lieutenant Yoon, on the other hand, she's constantly trying to get Wolf to open up to her, but Wolf is a very reserved person. And so it's interesting to see how both of these couples end up at kind of the same point at the end of episode 10. So in episode 9, we began with Dr. Kong's confession going all over the base for everyone to hear, for everyone to make fun of her about the fact that she's got this huge crush on Big Boss. But I mean, gosh, look at him. Who wouldn't? But because she's being confronted by the words that she left on her confession tape, she really is having to ask herself, if I felt that intensely in that moment and I still have these lingering feelings towards this man, is it worth it to pursue this relationship? She tries to ask Lieutenant Yoon, but of course Lieutenant Yoon's like, girl, I'm just trying to get my man to spend time with me. I don't have time to deal with your problems. So she and Big Boss end up on a trip back from a UN meeting, and they run over a landmine, which causes them to drive into a minefield. And as they're coming out of the minefield, they're kind of flirting with each other. Things are kind of cute. And they're on the back of a truck getting a ride back to base because they had to abandon their Jeep in the minefield. Well, on the back of the truck, Big Boss is like, listen, we've been flirting and things have been cute, but I just really need to know, are you here for me? Do you want to be with me? I'm ready to know. I've heard the tape. I feel like there's something here. What's up? What's going on? And she finally says, yeah, I'm here in Urk to spend time with you. That's my confession. And they share the cutest big old kiss. And I'm so happy for them because, at this point, we're halfway through the series. So, yeah, it was time to resolve the issue about are we going to be a couple or not. But I think that unlike some dramas where it's really fluffy, like, oh, I can't be with you because you're from a different class than me, and I can't be with you because I'm not a rich girl and you're a rich guy. This is like, they have really serious issues that any couple anywhere could relate to. They have a difference of opinion in terms of what's moral and what's not. They're dealing with a relationship that causes them to have to contemplate, can we survive this big distance? Am I secure enough in myself to not be freaked out every time you're called out to do your duty? And am I going to spend every night wondering if you're ever going to come home? This is a lot. These are real serious issues, and these are issues that anybody on just about any class level can sympathize with. This isn't a fantasy scenario. So for her to finally say, yes, I want to pursue this, she had to overcome a lot. And I think it's really cool that she kind of had to overcome her initial misgivings and her initial opinions of whether or not this could make a good relationship, because her morals continue to be tested throughout this series. Her kind of moral decision making was tested in the power plant when she had to choose between the grandpa engineer and the younger engineer, who's going to live and who's not. And then later on in the show, General Yoon, which is Lieutenant Yoon's father, comes by, and they are going to meet up with him, and he thanks Dr. Kong for helping out with the earthquake and with the Arab prince, and her and Big Boss are driving back to the base when they stop for gas. When they stop for gas, they see a young boy coming out of this gas station who's stealing medicine. And Big Boss catches the boy, and Dr. Kong notices he's got pustules and fever. He's got measles. And they take him back to his village because measles is highly contagious and they can't risk introducing that into the hospital. They go to his village and they find a whole bunch of kids that are sick and no adults. And it turns out that they have run across what's called a ghost village. And can I just say, thank you to the show for like showing some stuff that people never think about when they think about war. So many people think about, soldiers fighting soldiers, but they don't think about the civilian casualties that come with war. And not just the people whose homes get bombed, but the children who are left without guardianship, who are taken advantage of by the pariahs of war, who take all these broken bits and they rob off anything possibly usable for profit and for gain. Well, these war orphans are in this village that's being run by the worst person in the world, August, where the boys are turned into child soldiers and the girls are turned into prostitutes. And when they get there, a young girl in a red dress who goes by the name Fatima says, we're not allowed to speak to you because if we speak to you, we'll be starved to death. But I'm willing to talk to you because today is the day I'm supposed to be turned over to my pimp for the first time as a prostitute. So Dr. Kong, of course, is just like, oh my gosh, my heart, what the hell, what are we going to do? We have to rescue these babies. They've called the Korean army, and they're trying to get some help. All of a sudden, August pulls up. And of course, he's a big bad boy, and he's got to confront Big Boss, and they're at a standoff with guns. All of a sudden, you hear a shot ring out, and Fatima has somehow managed to get a gun and shoot August in his side. And, he's down for the count. He could probably bleed to death. And Fatima runs behind Big Boss and Dr. Kong, and she says to Dr. Kong, don't save him. Don't save him. And for more than a moment, Dr. Kong's like, you're right, girl, let's go. And Big Boss has to remind her, when I met you, you're a doctor. You took an oath. You have to save somebody. You can't think about who they are or what they've done. You have to save them. If anybody's going to kill anybody around here, it's me. And it's just so funny that she's being confronted with her moral code again, and they're almost in different positions. He's encouraging her to put human life before everything else, whereas she's thinking this scum of the earth is a destroyer of human life and better to let the demons get him. But she, of course, has to stand by her word and her oath because she is a good doctor. And she saves August, even though right after she saves him, he threatens to kill Fatima the next time he sees her. So, this guy is, he's the fucking scum of the earth. And I feel like we should have let him bleed out. But that's just me. I'm not a doctor. So my moral code doesn't demand that I save this person. But yeah, they have this thing where they really truly do bring out the best in each other, and that's what makes them such an awesome couple, because they see each other for what they are, they see the best in each other, and they encourage each other to be the best version of themselves. And I just love that about the relationship between Dr. Kong and Big Boss. So after they've brought Fatima back to camp, they're both having to deal with their separate crew members and different political and work situations, and someone breaks into the narcotics safe in the hospital. It turns out it's Fatima. Fatima has stolen the narcotics drugs because apparently she had a little bit of a boyfriend while she was in this refugee camp, and he told her to steal these drugs so they could sell them, hopefully to get some money and run away, which, considering the situation that Fatima's in, she's a young girl with no family, no hope, somebody showing her a little bit of love, and he's telling her, if you do these things, we can escape and maybe have a brighter future. I could see where he would have tricked this young girl. But she shows up with the meds, and of course, he was tricking her. He starts to beat her and is going to sell her off and sell these drugs, and he doesn't care about her. And it's just, it's heartbreaking, and it's sad that once again Fatima's being used. She's nothing more than a puppet. But Dr. Kong knew that Fatima was the one who took the drugs. So she goes to look for Fatima, and they find her in this big kind of abandoned, I won't say warehouse, but a big abandoned building. And she runs in there when she hears Fatima screaming, not even thinking, this is a really dangerous situation. And inside are 5 or 6 dudes with guns. And here Dr. Kong is no gun. Big Boss has a gun, but they have several guns. So Big Boss somehow manages to create a diversion that allows Dr. Kong to escape. When Dr. Kong escapes, she's told, in 5 minutes, if I'm not out of here, you need to drive off. Well, Big Boss means a lot to her. I mean, she's already gotten past the whole you could die on a mission thing. She's not about to let you go now. So she drives the Jeep into the building to rescue her man and get the hell out of Dodge. And they do. They manage to escape. Wow. But again, this is another one of those times where Dr. Kong had to question herself, like, can I be as strong a person as he is? I know that he's a soldier, and a soldier would never leave another soldier behind. Could I leave him behind? No, I can't. And every little thing brings her closer to understanding Big Boss's moral code. They kind of started like this, and they're just slowly moving towards each other until eventually they'll be at the same place. But yeah, I really enjoyed that. So we got over that. They're back at the hospital. Things are going okay. And then we're going to talk about the next couple. Let's talk about Dr. Onu and Caesar Milan. I know you're thinking, what couple could this possibly be? They're not really a couple. Dr. Onu, of course, you know who that is, but Caesar Milan is what Olivia Wonka calls Chief Jin, and I think it is a perfect nickname. But I say this couple because these two really create some situations that shouldn't have gone on and that make me kind of mad. So, Dr. Onu's in the hospital crying and sobbing every time he sees Lazy Bones because he's reminded that he didn't rescue him. But I mean, honestly, Dr. Onu, when you think about what you actually did, you did save this kid's life. Yes, you couldn't pull him out of the hole on your own because you were on your own, but the debris from the aftershocks was causing the building to crumble on top of your head. You had to get out of there. If you had stayed there, one of those stones would have beamed you in the head, killed you, and then nobody would have been able to tell the other army people that there's somebody still in this building. And when you ran out of the building, when the soldier first shook you like, hey, are you okay? The first thing you said is, there's somebody still in there. You saved this guy's life. Whether he wants to admit it or not, you saved his life. And you need to man the fuck up. You need to talk to your fiance because the woman's worried sick and she's days away from having your child, and it's really quite rude of you to not even let her know if you're dead or alive. But you need to man up, go see your woman, tell yourself that I did the right thing, I saved both of us, and keep it fucking moving. But no, the producers have Onu crying all the time, and Onu is one of the ugliest criers on television. At one point he's crying and there's like snot coming out of his nose and strings of saliva in his mouth, and it just looks like it tastes awful, and I was so sad for him, like, But anyway, yeah, so Dr. Onu, because of all his sniffling and crying and whatever, he abandons his seat on the plane for Caesar Milan. Why would he abandon his seat on the plane for Caesar Milan? Because Caesar Milan claims that he needs to go back to Korea because he's actually hurt and he needs to go to the best hospitals in Gangnam to get himself treated. But that's not really what's happening. What's really happening is that Caesar Milan has a lot of trouble with the August gang. So he goes back in the power plant to get these diamonds. And August and the gang are waiting outside the power plant. They see Caesar Milan sneaking under the barriers with this safety box. But the lock on the safety box is smashed and they're not able to get the diamonds from him right then. But August says, listen, we're going to take this safe. If my diamonds aren't in here, that's your ass. A bullet to the dome the moment I see you. Well, they flash back a little bit more. Caesar Milan has swallowed these diamonds raw gut and then smashed up the lock so that he could hopefully get on this plane to Korea, get out of the way of the August gang, and abscond with these diamonds. Now, I'm just going to talk to you guys about this because I just want to know how you guys would do. If I had to swallow raw diamonds, and diamonds are sharp, people use diamonds to create like tools, that like cutting tools, because they're that sharp. Would I swallow a fistful of diamonds, or would I get like a balloon or a baggie or something to tie the diamonds together and then swallow the balloon? I'm just saying, which one would you guys do? I don't understand this raw swallowing of diamonds. And he didn't just do it once, he did it twice. So he swallows the diamonds. He thinks he's going to be able to escape the country because Onu gives him the seat on the plane. He gets to the airport, and the August gang has already found out after opening the safe that Caesar Milan has escaped with their diamonds. So Caesar Milan's trying to get on the plane. The August gang is at the airport waiting for him. Caesar Milan can't get on the plane. So now Caesar Milan's hiding out in town, trying to get a fake passport or whatever so that he can leave the country again. He finally does get a fake passport with like the world's stupidest fake mustache on it. And these diamonds that he had just shit out of himself right before he got the fake passport, yeah, he has to swallow these feces covered diamonds again to try to get them out of the country. And again, this would be an excellent time to have a balloon to swallow these fucking diamonds with, because yuck. Anyway, he goes to the airport second time, trying to get on this fucking plane, and of course they spot him because it's basically like his picture with like a Sharpie mustache drawn on. I mean, you can tell it's him. And the August gang, because they kind of told the local authorities that they're looking for this guy, they get him at the airport and they're about to cut him open and get their damn diamonds back, like for real. But somehow or another, they get wind of it, the people over at the Korean Army base, and they do a search and rescue mission. They rescue Caesar Milan from the August gang without shooting or harming anybody in the August gang. And they bring Caesar Milan to the hospital. Well, when Caesar Milan gets to the hospital, he is sick. And of course, they're like, yeah, sure, you're sick, just like you've been sick every other time. No, man, Caesar Milan is sick. All them raw diamonds that he swallowed totally fucked his shit up. Cut everything up, internal bleeding, vomiting blood, disgusting. So, of course, Dr. Kong, being the kind of person who wants to save everybody, she goes ahead and she brings him into the operating room, and they're going to, cut these diamonds out of his stomach, try to repair some of this bleeding. Well, Lieutenant Yoon is in there helping because old man, funny doctor, he's sick and he can't do the operation. And when they go to cut in, they thought they had cut a blood vessel, but they cut something else. Apparently some kind of a pustule or a tumor or something. Turns out Caesar Milan wasn't coughing blood because of all these diamonds. He was coughing blood because he's got this crazy contagious like Ebola-like disease, which is another thing people don't think about when it comes to war zones. A lot of times in war zones, disease is the number one killer of civilians and soldiers alike, because you're in situations where there's not a lot of sanitary water, there's not a lot of sanitary living conditions, and there's people who haven't been vaccinated all their life like they are in other countries, so they're more susceptible to getting diseases that in a lot of other places have been completely eradicated. For instance, the measles that the young man had at the beginning of the series, in America, I've never known anyone with measles because everyone I know had the MMR vaccine when they were infants. So yeah, that's one of those things that it'll get you. Now, because Lieutenant Yoon and Dr. Kong were operating on Caesar Milan, they were both sprayed with this blood, and they've both been exposed to this virus. And of course, when the boys find out that their loved ones are in this operating room quarantined because they've been exposed to this virus, they're outside and they're crying and they're like, baby, hold on. I'm going to find a way to help you. Whatever you want, I'm going to do it for you. I love you, girl. And I'm smiling because Dr. Kong is like, oh, really? You'd do anything for me? Tell me who that bitch was who sent you that box of chocolates. This is because earlier in the show, a delivery had arrived, and it was like a care package from these two girls that Big Boss and Wolf had gone on a date with when they were back in Korea. And it's just so funny because, like, girl, you see this man is like crazy worried, and you decide to use this time to like tease him a little bit. But yeah, like, that's just, I guess that's their relationship. Dr. Kong's not as worried. I think she's like, we'll be all right. It's going to be fine. But anyway, this leads me to our last couple, Wolf and Lieutenant Yoon. So Wolf did kind of open up with Lieutenant Yoon during my last review, but he's kind of shrunken back into himself, and for good reason. Wolf is a guy who grew up hard. He ran in the streets. The military kind of saved his life, but he's kind of always seen himself as like this rough guy, unrefined, unable to really truly be loved, and that he's just not good enough for a good girl. And then he meets somebody like Lieutenant Yoon, who's like smart and beautiful and is a great humanitarian by saving all these people as a doctor. She's everything a guy like him should never ever have. And on the one hand, he's madly in love with her, but I think he's also kind of afraid to break her. He's afraid that the dirt and the grime on his soul will rub off on her. But he's willing to try, and he's trying to open up. But even things like holding hands, that's still really hard for him. Well, when General Yoon comes to town, after he's talked to Dr. Kong and said, hey, you did a good job with the earthquake, he asked Big Boss, like, hey, see my daughter over there? No feelings, nothing, you don't think she's hot? And, Big Boss is like, I think she's a beautiful girl, but she's just not for me. She'll always be a great soldier in my eyes, but she'll never be a woman to me. So then he decides to consult with Wolf, General Yoon does, and he's like, okay, well, obviously, my daughter really wants you. I want to give my daughter what she wants. But, honestly, I don't think you're good enough for my daughter, and I think you agree. So what you're going to do is you're going to leave the military, and you're going to work for my wife's family's company, and that'll make you good enough for my daughter. And this is a really hard kind of catch-22 situation, because on the one hand, it is the military that saved Wolf. It brought him to a place where he could be accepted, where he could be a man of honor, where he could save people, and he can kind of redeem himself of all of maybe bad things that he did back when he was running the streets. And to give that up, that would be hard for him to do, because this is a big part of who he is now. He's been able to remake himself in the image of a soldier. But on the other hand, Lieutenant Yoon is something that he's wanted and that he never thought he could have. And if it took quitting the military to make himself good enough to be with her, he'd want to do that too. And he even tries to hint to her, like, how would you feel if I wasn't in this uniform? She thinks it's because he wants her to leave the military. No, it's because he's thinking about doing it so he could be with her. But, they're at an impasse because she wants him to be more touchy-feely, more lovey-dovey. He's still very reserved because he's still not sure, what decision he's going to make. Well, when she's stuck in the quarantine operating room, of course, Wolf is like, he's distraught because he had maybe come to a decision in himself, like what he was going to do. And now he's worried that maybe this woman that he loves is not going to be there for him to make his final decision about. And so what they do is they take blood samples from both of the doctors and they turn it into a lab to try to figure out if either of these doctors have this virus. It could be one of two. It could either be the M2 virus, which is kind of like a really bad flu, or the M3, which is just above Ebola. Well, they do test of all the blood samples. Obviously, Caesar Milan has M3, and it turns out at the end of the show, Wolf runs into the operating room and hugs Lieutenant Yoon, and she says, "It's me." She's got the M3, and it is just heartbreaking because, gosh, can anything go right for Wolf? Can anything go right for this couple? I cried. I actually did, tears leaked out my face. Because Wolf is just such a good guy. And Lieutenant Yoon, the first time I saw her in the series, if you go back to my review for episode 1, I didn't like her. I thought she was a bitch. Because she was really abusing her power. But later on, you could see it was just that she was just so emotionally drained from not being able to get Wolf to open up to her. And it just sucks that at this moment, when they're finally kind of able to be the carefree couple that they deserve to be, that they're looking at maybe the end of their life together, because a disease that's only slightly less deadly than Ebola is still a disease you could die from. And they're in a war zone, in a place that's really not the most hospitable place for somebody who has a deadly disease. So there's every chance in the world that it could be over. And while Wolf running into that operating room, he's actually doing one of two things. Number one, he's breaking past any barriers he personally has that keeps him from expressing emotion and love towards Lieutenant Yoon. But he's also making a very clear statement. If you're gonna die, I'm dying right here with you. If you've got this disease, I'm catching it too. Because you mean that much to me. The end of your story is the end of my story. And I was just overcome. I was just really overcome. So these 2 episodes were really great. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have anything else you want to talk about that I didn't mention in the video, please leave it in the comment section down below. I answer all of my comments. I really, really do. So don't think that I'm going to be snobbish and not talk to you. I'm totally going to talk to you. I'm certain I missed something. And anything that you leave down below. When I get ready to do episode 11 and 12, I'll try to answer questions or interact with you in that video as well. But yes, please do, and thank you for being patient with me as we go through Descendants of the Sun together. Talk to you later. Bye!